Alright, here we go. We're back. What's up, everyone? Hope you're all having a good morning, afternoon, evening, or good night, wherever you are. We're back for some more Metal Gear Solid 2, as you can see right here. Hopefully finishing up the prologue today, but we've still got more than 100 pages, so don't count on it. Yeah. About 120 pages left. So if I do finish the prologue, we won't be going into the game today, because I'll probably be too tired after that. But mostly because I actually have something I have to do in about an hour or two, so let's do it. But we'll hopefully still be able to finish that. I just ate, so I have plenty of energy. Gary McGolden, that was his name. Mr. Anti-Peanut Butter Guy. In the Darkness of Shadow Moses. The Unofficial Truth by Nastasha Romanenko. Alright, let's see. We left off on page 200, right? No, a little bit past it. The part where Naomi confessed everything about getting revenge on Snake because of Grey Fox and Big Boss's death. Yeah, we read this actually. Right, this is before the fight with Metal Gear. We were actually past that, yeah. I remember where we were now. It was right after the fight with Metal Gear Rex. Yeah, so we were actually further. Okay, so it was like 220 then. Around there. Liquid and Snake's arguments, and, well, mostly all the revelations and everything before they fought. They put the whole dialogue sequence between Liquid and Solid there. This is a fight with Metal Gear. Grey Fox got involved, got himself killed, but not in vain. He helped Snake take down Metal Gear Rex. Yep. Okay, we were a lot further than I thought, so we're actually less than 100 pages out. And yeah, here it is. Okay, so Snake got caught in the blast after, defeating Metal Gear Rex. Was bodily thrown across the hangar and knocked unconscious. And this is where I left it here like a little cliffhanger. So it's page 252. Somehow I forgot that we were actually 50 pages further than what I thought. In that case, there's a huge chance we're going to finish with this stream, so 4 minutes in, I'm going to do another 30 minutes like yesterday, but if we're close enough to the end, I'll just push through to the end. I think in 30 minutes we'll probably finish, actually. Okay, so after the fight with Metal Gear Rex, Snake was, knocked unconscious, and then sometime later, Snake was still out cold, but his radio was online. We could hear smaller explosions from the wreck of the Metal Gear, and the sound of flames greedily sucking up the leaking fuel. Snake showed no signs of coming around. A few minutes later, a sound of footsteps emerged from the general chaos. It was moving towards Snake. There was a faint murmur. Snake, it's not over yet. It was Liquid's voice. Snake! I yelled into the radio, but Snake did not stir. Isn't there any way to wake him? I asked Richard, but he shook his head. He was like... Liquid had reached Snake's side, and to our surprise, picked up Snake's limp body. They started to carry Snake, heading in the direction of Metal Gear's prone form. We listened, helpless, in a tense silence. It was Snake's battle. There was next to nothing we could do. Liquid had now climbed onto Metal Gear's back, where he carelessly laid Snake down. He apparently planned to simply wait for his adversary to regain consciousness. So, Liquid said. Snake was still out of action. I know you're listening. You have a radio implant in this one. It was clear that Liquid was talking to us. You think you've pulled off, Foxdie. Think again. You're never going to kill me with a thing like that. Never. The knowledge that he was already infected with the killer retrovirus made no difference to Liquid Snake. It was a force of will that commanded respect. You have no idea how excited I am, knowing that you're still out there. Revenge is a candy I've been deprived of too many times. What the hell are you talking about? The hatred in Liquid's voice was chilling. You. Patriots! At that moment, Snake let out a groan. He was starting to surface. He's almost ready. Listen, all of you. When I've settled the score with this one, I'm coming after you next. I'm going to end your miserable lives in a way that'll make even the Reaper's stomach turn. I look forward to it, Richard murmured starkly. Snake groaned again. He was apparently awake. Damn. Richard was like, challenge accepted, asshole. Still a light sleeper, huh? Liquid said to Snake conversationally. Liquid, you're alive? You won't get rid of me, not as long as you're breathing. Sorry your insurrection was a bust, Snake commented. Do you think that I'll give up my fight just because we've lost Metal Gear? Liquid had lost none of his confidence. Your fight? Snake shot back. What's your real objective here? To make sure that the Age of Warriors comes again. Warriors like us, Snake. That's Big Boss's pet delusion all over again. No, his legacy. Liquid exploded at Snake's words. All throughout the Cold War, during the times of turbulence, the whole world wanted us, gave us our due. We were needed. He fell silent as if to mourn for the days that were no more. That's all changed. Hypocrisy and fraudulent peace are replacing warfare. There is a terrible emptiness that comes from losing an arena for your gifts, and the terror that you will become a dinosaur, no longer useful. You must know that fear better than anyone. Snake had no reply to Liquid's entreaty. I wondered whether Liquid's words had found their mark. The prototype nuclear warheads will provide me with the leverage to acquire my campaign funds. The funds will make more global acts of terrorism possible. Violence begets violence, and this complacent world will erupt into confusion. Violence, mistrust, and conflict will compound each other and create more hatred. And our sphere of usefulness, the ecosystem of war, will grow larger and larger. As long as human beings are around, there will always be war, somewhere in the world, Snake argued. There's no need to create more. It's a question of balance, Liquid responded in a flash. The balance that our father fought for. And that's the only reason you need to do this? It's more than enough for me, and for you, too. That's not the kind of thing I want. Not now, not ever. Liquid laughed at Snake's dogged refusal. You're lying. Why do you think you're here? You've been lied to, betrayed by your own team, but you still wouldn't abandon the mission. Why? Snake could not answer. I'll tell you why, Liquid continued. Because you enjoy it. The thrills and the kills. No, that's not... Snake was struggling for words, but Liquid cut in. Are you going to deny it? You've killed dozens of my men today. But that was... As Snake faltered, Liquid laughed in contempt. Every time you delivered the kill shot, your face brightened up. No! There's no reason for you to deny your own killer instincts. That's what we were created for, after all. What we were created for? It was all the encouragement Liquid needed to reveal the details of a secret project known as Les Enfants Terribles. It was the 1970s. The US had not yet awoken from the nightmare of Vietnam War, when a plan was hatched by key figures in the government to artificially create the ideal soldier. The man selected to serve as the genetic template for the project was the most famous living mercenary of the time, Big Boss. Big Boss was, however, incapable of reproducing, a result of past war injuries. Oh man, I felt that one between my legs. As a result, his body cells were harvested for a cloning attempt. In addition to the existing analog cloning protocol, the program incorporated the so-called super baby technique. The super baby technique involves carefully dividing the fertilized egg whose nucleus had been switched with that of the donor cell. The result is usually 8 zygotes, which are then implanted in a surrogate's uterus. 6 of the embryos are strategically aborted over a period of time in order to boost the growth of the remaining 2. This is actually real shit, yeah. Can we read that again? So, they do... carefully dividing the fertilized egg. So they divide the egg itself. And it's been switched with that of the donor cell. So that would make them... That's some complex shit. Alright. I was gonna say, that would make them fraternal twins then. That explains why they don't look all exactly identical, or at least the two that survived. Like, their face is the same, but they have different hair and skin tone. So there's some minor differences. It's probably because, like Liquid said, they're not exact, complete, like, identical twins or clones. But maybe not. Maybe that's just a case of some genes activated and others didn't. I think it's more what I just said, though, because of the fact that he said he got all the recessive genes and Solid Snake got all the dominant genes, which was then later revealed in the post-credit scene that that's not actually true. It was the other way around. Liquid was the one with the dominant genes, not Solid Snake. But they never knew. That truth never came out while they were alive. Or sorry, while Liquid was alive. And only Ocelot knows that. Solid Snake doesn't. We started out as octuplets, Liquid reflected. Octuplets? Snake was clearly taken aback. 6 of our brothers were killed so that we could be created. We've been causing death and destruction even before we breathed outside air. That left the 2 of us. 2 zygotes that shared the same DNA. Excuse me. But there was one more sacrifice to be made. One of the embryos was engineered to manifest the full potential of its genetic makeup, at the expense of the other one, which was purposefully relegated to the bottom of the curve. You are what you are, Solid Snake, thanks to the death and deprivation of your brothers. Liquid surveyed the stunned Snake and smiled. 1 second. You bastard! Had to test the soundboard. Liquid's pissed at Solid Snake, so it makes sense. Anyway, Liquid surveyed the stunned Snake and smiled. But if you think that I'm the only sibling you have left, think again. What? The genome soldiers. They were bred from our father's DNA too. The only difference is that they're not analogs of him like we are. Liquid went on to tell an astonishing story. The Human Genome Project, concluded late last century, the Les Enfants Terribles project, and the intensive study of Big Boss's genetic samples had led researchers to many of the secrets of the so-called soldier genes. The isolated traits for initiative, discipline, and other tactically desirable characteristics had been secretly integrated into the genetic structure of next-generation Special Forces soldiers. All those commandos you murdered on this base were your brothers. The genome soldiers. Incomplete creatures, certainly forcibly grafted with a piece of Big Boss's genetic sequence. But still family. They share in the family dysfunction, too. Their lives also cost someone dearly. How so? Human experiments, Liquid hissed angrily. According to Liquid, the military had secretly started treating its men with the soldier gene when the 1991 Gulf War broke out. The unexplained Gulf War syndrome. Among the returning personnel was apparently one of the gene therapy's unfortunate side effects. That means that those Gulf War babies born to vets are... Snake asked, stunned. Exactly. Our earliest siblings. And the next generation Special Forces were the finished product? Finished? Liquid sneered. Hardly. They're defective. We all are. On a path to extinction, if you will. What did you say? You ever heard of the law of biological asymmetry? There's a natural tendency towards left-right symmetry. On the other hand, species that run out of genetic diversity and are on path to extinction start showing complete symmetry. That's what's happening to the genome soldiers. And to us. Snake stared at Liquid in bleak shock. Every one of us is dying on a genetic level. The question is when the decline will start. That's why I need our father's body to get some answers. You expect me to believe, Snake asked, that you demanded Big Boss's body so you can save yourself and the genome soldiers? Siblings start out life competing, but they always band together against outside threats. Why do you think that is? By the way, this whole thing about them dying on a genetic level is a plot point that will be revisited later. I believe I said that before when we finished Metal Gear Solid 1 out of 4 times. But Liquid waited for Snake to respond, but the latter said nothing. It's because they share your genes, and by helping them, the chances of your genes making it to the next generation are better. Natural selection favors nepotistic species. The instinct to help our own kind is an inherited trait. Your DNA is ordering you to help these genome commandos? Snake said skeptically, but Liquid agreed in reverential tone. No one can go against their genetic destiny. We were born for the sole purpose of recreating our father's DNA in its basest and most ideal incarnations. I will follow my destiny and surpass it. I can break my own biological curse, and that's why I'm going to kill you, Solid Snake. He spoke quietly, but it was clear that he meant every word. He suddenly called out in a different tone. Look behind you. Meryl? Snake exclaimed. Meryl was apparently lying behind Snake. I guessed that she had been brought there before Liquid had carried Snake onto the roof. Is she alive? I wouldn't know. She was definitely breathing a few hours ago, though. She kept calling your name over and over again, Liquid said coolly. Meryl, she's a fool to fall for a man who doesn't even have a name. I do have a name. No, you don't. And no past and no future. That's the way it is for us, Liquid shouted. The only thing we do have are instructions written in our father's genomes. Liquid, let Meryl go. After we settle things between us, we're just about out of time. Are you talking about Foxdie? No, the Pentagon. It seems that the DoD came to a decision when they heard about Metal Gear's destruction. They're not even interested in a Bonder report at this point. Ask your Shadow Campbell if you want. He likes to listen, doesn't he? Snake raised Campbell on the radio. Colonel, can you hear me? I'm here. What's the Pentagon up to? You'd better tell me, Colonel. The Defense Secretary's personally taken control of the mission. He's on an AWAC heading your way. For what? An airstrike, Campbell replied bitterly. What?
What?
There.
What the fuck?
That's not even the bad news. A bomber just took off from the Galena AFB. It's carrying the B-6113 surface-piercing missiles. What? Metal Gear's already been destroyed. Snake raised his voice. Doesn't the Defense Secretary know that? He knows, but because of Naomi's betrayal, he no longer has any faith in Foxdie's effectiveness. Your taking out Metal Gear means that the threat of nuclear strike has been removed, and he's free to ensure a direct and complete cover-up of the whole affair. By blowing up all of the evidence and everyone who knows anything sky-high with a nuclear bomb, Snake finished angrily. But Campbell's next words were unexpected. Don't worry, Snake. I'll halt the airstrike. What? It may be a technicality, but I'm still the field controller for the mission. If I call in an order to halt the strike, it should wreak enough havoc within the chain of command to buy you some time. Use it to get out of there. Richard called one of his men over and muttered an order. There was little doubt that it was for Campbell's arrest. See? Again, beautifully done retcon, isn't it? It actually fits with what actually happened in the story of the previous game. This book is well done. This is how you're supposed to do retconning. Because, you're able to hide it and make it seem like maybe this is what they had planned all along. But who really knows, right? Snake and Campbell, ignorant of the room full of ears who were listening in on their exchange, were still talking. Colonel, you know what would happen to you. It's all right, Snake, but you should know something. There was a top-secret internal investigation being conducted into Foxhound these past few months. Meryl was transferred out to Shadow Moses the day of the insurrection, as a hostage to ensure my cooperation. What a... Snake broke off in disgust. Yeah. Now go, Snake. Are you sure about this? You'll lose everything you've worked for. I'm sure. Excuse me. And this way I get to keep the things that are really important, and that I would otherwise lose. Colonel. All right, I'm putting in an order to halt the strike. This is the point of no return. What the hell? Campbell gasped. It seemed that Richard's men were trying to restrain him. The only thing we could hear over the radio were gunshots and unintelligible noise. I was once again a helpless spectator of a life-or-death struggle. Mei Ling burst in abruptly, as though she had seized the microphone. Snake! Mei Ling, what happened to the Colonel? I don't believe this! Tell me, what's going on? Snake! The Colonel! Mei Ling's voice was lost in the shower of static before she could reveal more. Instead, an unfamiliar male voice started to speak. This is Jim Hausman, Secretary of Defense. Roy Campbell was just relieved of duty. Let me talk to Colonel Campbell. He's been arrested for compromising national security. He'll be charged with treason. That's insane! No, it was Roy Campbell who was insane if he truly believed that he had any real say in this mission. You! Snake was seething, but Hausman went on nonchalantly. The nuclear strike will go forward as planned. The sea will take care of what little there is left. It's what the president wants. So this is an executive order? The presidency of the United States is a very, very busy job. Let's just say that I take full responsibility for this strike. How are you going to explain to the media why you dropped a nuke on American soil? Don't worry, there's a cover story ready. A band of terrorists took over the Shadow Moses facility and were extremely careless with their nuclear missile. You'll be killing your own genome commandos, all the researchers too. Donald is already dead, Hausman suddenly said with genuine sorrow in his voice. So you didn't plan on killing the DARPA chief after all? Snake asked. He was my closest friend. And the rest of the poor bastards stranded here aren't, so to hell with them, is that it? That depends. If you transfer the contents of the optical disc over to me, there may be room for negotiation. What disc? Snake feigned ignorance, but Hausman was not so easily put off. The disc that contained the full exercise data. Donald was supposed to personally bring it back. I don't have it. That's unfortunate, Hausman said calmly. The fact remains that the two of you are a liability. You belong to an age no one cares to go back to, and you have the potential to needlessly embarrass this great nation. No, you cannot be permitted to ever leave that island. Take the time until the airstrike to catch up. Then rest in peace. You are a ghost of the Cold War, after all. The transmission ended. So there's no way out for either of us, I heard Liquid laugh as he approached Snake. We'll settle the score before the cavalry arrives. Snake rose to his feet. You've taken everything from me, Liquid said, and I will reclaim it all, including my rightful biological heritage, right here. The two snakes closed in on one another. The final battle was about to begin. Yes, an epic fistfight. Snake and Liquid had engaged each other in a fierce hand-to-hand combat, but Richard had other things to attend to. He had one of his men open a radio channel. Yes? What is it? I realized with surprise that the person he had called was none other than the Secretary of Defense, Jim Hausman. An airstrike was an unwise decision. Richard sounded displeased. With a nuclear-armed stealth bomber airborne, a complete cover-up is no longer an option. They are not happy with this. Oh, looks like Jim Hausman fucked up. They, huh? Obviously referring to the Patriots. It's the only way to destroy the evidence. The results will bear out the correctness of my decision. There will be no results. I've already aborted the airstrike. How dare you? Hausman started to roar, then suddenly petered out. He no doubt had remembered the powers that be that stood behind Richard. What do you intend to do, then? He asked with barely suppressed rage. There is another viable way to salvage the situation. And make me take the fall? I don't think so. Hausman's voice shook with fury. Richard sighed exaggeratedly. You don't think so? It seems, Mr. Secretary, that Colonel Campbell is not the only one who truly believed that he had any real say in this mission. What are you saying? I heard the sound of scuffling on the other end. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Get your hands off of me! Hausman had apparently been restrained. It was exactly the same scenario that had played out during Campbell's arrest. You have several choices, Richard explained with something resembling pity. It's up to you which ending this particular story has. I myself would suggest a quiet retirement from public life. You'll pay for this, Ames. I swear to God. Hausman spat out as he struggled vainly against his captors. Personally, I don't condone rough measures. I hope you'll come to the same decision. Richard ended the call. The transmission from Shadow Moses was still active. Liquid's dying scream tore through the speakers. Looks like things are wrapping up nicely over there, Richard murmured. Richard cleared all of the personnel out of the study. We were now alone. I could hear Snake and Merrill over the wires. It seemed that he had succeeded in rescuing her in time. Now the question is, what am I going to do with you? Richard said as he turned away from the radio. The time had come for me to make my move. I walked up to my computer. This nanomachine has been recording everything that went on in this study and relaying it out to a remote location. Once there, the data was immediately backed up on an optical disc. Oh shit, here we go. Now it's coming full circle with the story we read before from that peanut butter guy. This must be the optical disc that he found, or that was mailed to him, right? It was no bluff. It was just a more covert version of a real time remote conferencing system. Because of my work, I frequently must acquire information from such unsavory types as black market arms dealers and mafia members who specialize in plutonium smuggling. The recordings were my standard insurance policy. I've already sent a message to the. What? The collocation administrator. Never heard that one before. Gonna have to look that up. He'll give the disc to my media contact if he can't get in touch with me by a certain time. That had been the mail I'd secretly sent from my PDA earlier. Contacting. Okay, yeah. Right. If anything happens to me, the contents of the disc will be all over the world. But Richard was unfazed. I started to feel apprehensive as he calmly lit another cigarette. He was just like, whatever. You mean this disc? He took out a shining optical disc from his inside jacket pocket and slid it into my PC's drive. A few quick clicks of the mouse and the playback started. I stared at the slightly grainy footage, horrified. The audio seemed overly loud in the silent room. You should be hearing from him soon. You're clear on how to use the radio? Richard's voice was raspy and playback, but it was definitely the data I had secretly collected and sent out. How? You shouldn't underestimate me, Richard said as he ejected and pocketed the disc. Everything in this house has been vetted and monitored since the operation started. Nothing got in or out without my knowing about it, including electronic signals. That email you sent from the bathroom never got to its destination. He'd seen right through me. With that realization, I felt strength leaving my body. The game was up. But even if you had managed to get this data out into the world, that wouldn't have guaranteed your safety. No one would have believed yet another conspiracy theory, least of all the press. Your people would have made sure of that, I'm sure. Instead of answering, Richard stubbed out his cigarette and slid his right hand inside his jacket. There was an awkward bulge there. Sorry, I had to. Anyway, in the clean line of his tailored jacket, it was where he kept his gun holstered. Oh, here we go. He's about to shoot her. Cold sweat trickled down my back. I was slowly backing away from Richard, and I did not even realize the fact until my back hit the wall. There was no way out. Are you really prepared to kill me? I could not hide the tremor in my voice. You should know the answer to that, he said quietly, looking me straight in the eye. Then he pulled his hand out from under his jacket, and I instinctively shut my eyes. He just got ready for the end, basically. But even after what felt like an eternity, a muffled shot and the pain I was expecting did not come. I warily opened my eyes and saw what was in his hand. It was not a gun, but a disc. Everything you ever wanted to know about Foxdie. Richard walked up to me and placed the disc in my hand. As I said, a recording of what took place in this room won't guarantee your safety. There's no solid proof, just talk. It can easily be denounced as a fabrication and covered up. But the Foxdie data is a different story, he continued. This disc contains everything about that project, from its origins to the names of every individual involved. As long as you have this as an insurance, they won't be able to touch you. Why, Richard? He did not answer my question. Excuse me. We are going to finish. I'm close enough. You'd better get out of here, quickly. Your car's just out back. What about you? That's not something you need to worry about. But you don't need me, Nastasha, and I have things to take care of. Why are you doing this? I asked again. You'll figure it out someday. Do what you have to do, all right? Excuse me? He suddenly held me close and put his lips on mine. Man, better love story than Twilight, am I right? Just to bring back old memes. Anyway, as we broke apart after a long kiss, he whispered in my ear. I wanted to do this again, just one last time. Then he gently eased me away. Now go, hurry. There was a gravity in his voice that allowed only one response. I nodded and sped out of the room. That was the last I ever saw of Richard Ames. Well, yeah, because after they found out he let her go, they probably killed him. After I fled from California, I went into hiding. There has been no sign of pursuit, for now. The terrorist incident on Shadow Moses Island came to a conclusion with the destruction of Metal Gear and the death of Liquid Snake. The United States government, however, has not yet officially acknowledged the incident. The roster of the dead included Liquid Snake, Psycho Mantis, Sniper Wolf, Decoy Octopus, and Vulcan Raven. Revolver Ocelot's body was never recovered, but his personnel file was closed with the notation "Missing in Action." Foxhound had, in effect, been decimated. The survivors from the Next Generation Commando unit were all removed to the P's AFB in New Hampshire, ostensibly for training. As far as I know, they remain prisoners there to this day. The government has repeatedly denied allegations of genetically engineering super soldiers, but rumors that the research continues remain persistent. The deaths of Donald Anderson, the DARPA chief, and Kenneth Baker of ArmsTech ended the development of a new Metal Gear. The Metal Gear Rex unit itself had been all but completed under Hal Emmerich's leadership, but my source at Lawrence Livermore indicated that the railgun warhead delivery system had not been fully operational. Apparently, there had been some serious issues with the railgun's targeting accuracy. This was no doubt the reason Baker had entrusted Snake with the exercise data, and Jim Hausman, the Secretary of Defense, had so aggressively pursued its whereabouts. The data is now lost, and the development program has been closed down. Well, Ocelot actually took the data. We know that. They don't. Dramatic irony right there. I dare to dream that the nuclear delivery system will never see the light of day. A few days after the incident, I heard on the news that Hausman had shot himself. The suicide was attributed to a temporary nervous breakdown related to job stress. Supporting statements from family and subordinates were widely aired. The airstrike order for Shadow Moses was glossed over as an unfortunate evidence of the late Defense Secretary's unraveling mental state. I remembered Hausman's words from the final hours of the mission and thought I knew what had really happened. He had refused to take the fall and paid for the defiance with his life. Yep. The record of the Shadow Moses incident and the Foxdie data disk that Richard gave me are still under my vigilant guard. The Foxdie program data covers Naomi's careful analysis of the unauthorized reconfiguration she had made to the virus. The information showed that Snake was indeed one of the targets for the deadly retrovirus, but the incubation period had been changed to a wildcard value. Even Naomi herself did not know when the virus would awaken within Snake. It must have been the best revenge she could think of, condemning him to live in this fearful limbo. That's true. Holy shit, that's fucked up. Isn't it? Like, her putting it at a number even she doesn't know? It's like a ticking time bomb that you can't see the timer on, and it's set to a completely random number, so you have no idea when it's going to happen. You'll live out the rest of your life wondering if this is going to be the moment where you get a heart attack. Or maybe now. Or maybe right now. Or maybe not for another 10 seconds. Or another minute. Another day. Years. You'll never know. Imagine living life like that, just knowing a heart attack could hit just at any second, no matter what you do. There's just no way to prevent it. It's just going to happen at a random moment when you least expect it. Oh, Jesus. Poor Snake, man. That explains why she never answered his question, though. Before, Meryl and him took off into the sunset with the snowmobile, right? He had asked Naomi when his time was going to be up and all that, and she said it wasn't important. She told him to just live his life to the best of his ability, to the fullest, basically, to just enjoy what time he had left, no matter how long or how little it was. Because she was obviously regretting what she did at that point. I can't believe all this happened at the same time that Snake escaped the base, though. Nastasha had to run for her life, too, and Richard Ames helped her out. This is really cool. This is a really cool story. Okay, so Colonel Roy Campbell was released after the Defense Secretary's own arrest, and is once again enjoying his retirement. Mei Ling also made it safely out of the mission and is back in academia. Dr. Hal Emmerich did not return to ArmsTech following his rescue from Shadow Moses. His whereabouts are unknown, but there is some indication that he made his way to England, where he has family members. Okay. Okay, Snake and Meryl appear to have successfully made it off Shadow Moses Island. I could, however, find no trace of them. I hope that the same is true for those who have an interest in seeing them silenced. Naomi Hunter was formally taken into custody after the incident's conclusion. 3 weeks later, as she was undergoing debriefing in a certain facility, she escaped. She has not been heard of since. Officials were closed mouthed about the circumstances of the escape, but inquiries into other quarters elicited the fact that someone had broken Naomi out of the base. I knew of only one person who could have breached the base's tight security and successfully led someone to freedom. Oh. Oh, she's alluding to Richard. He's still around, basically. He helped Nastasha escape, but of course he also had feelings for Naomi. And would know how to do that stuff, yeah. What she just said, so Richard probably helped break Naomi out of prison too. Still, I mean, how long is he going to be able to keep that up before they get him, right? And then there was the matter of Richard Ames. I called in a favor. If it's not referring to Richard, then it's probably, maybe Otacon. I don't think that's who she was alluding to, though. But I don't know. Or maybe she's just referring to Snake. Like Snake went to Richard, or Snake went to rescue Naomi for some reason. Like he just felt compelled to. That might be who she was actually referring to then. That's interesting. Because you'd think with what happened and everything, like Snake would feel sympathy for her, yes, but enough to go save her from prison, that's. Well, I guess Snake really is a good guy then. Yeah, if that's what she's alluding to and if that's what actually happened. Alright, so then there was the matter of Richard Ames. I called in a favor and had an inquiry made. I say he's a really good guy because, I mean, despite how they ended things on good terms and all that, she still did program the Foxeye to kill him, so. But it's amazing that Snake's character, he just looked past that anyway and still went out of his way and risked his life to save her. So I called in a favor and had an inquiry made to the DIA about one Major Richard Ames. The agency's response was that there was no DIA personnel fitting that name and description. Buying my safety and freedom had been a costly act for Richard. It was then that I decided to go public with what I knew. By exposing the conspiracy, I may be putting myself in renewed danger, but I am through with being a spectator, an objective bystander. The powerlessness I felt watching Snake's solitary war on Shadow Moses has been a bitter wake-up call. Excuse me. This time, I am determined to make a stand. This is my war now, to tell the truth about what happened on that island. That is my responsibility and privilege as a survivor, and a cause for which I am prepared to give my life. The end. And that wraps it up. That's the entire previous story, In the Darkness of Shadow Moses, the unofficial truth. So she got out of there with the optical disc and then somehow got it into the hands of this conspiracy nut from over here. Where did he say he got it from? He said he got it in the mail, right? By his, Yeah, that's right. It was at the very end. There's that big plot twist reveal where they say that the guy he says mailed him the optical disc never actually did that. This is right here. I should know, however, that Gary was mistaken about one thing. I never mailed him that disc. So it's possible Nastasha nailed him the disc, or mailed him the disc, but she impersonated this guy, the editor-in-chief of this magazine, to try and protect herself, right? Well, let me go back to this guy's, the beginning of his story, because I want to see what he said he found on the disc when he took it to his neighbor's computer or whatever, the college kid, right? This is the intro where it starts like halfway through his story, so I'm skipping over this. I mean, there it is. Weapons of mass destruction secretly developed by the military, super soldiers, a killer virus that only targets specific individuals with deadly accuracy. All of these are part of the truth I found sealed within the optical disc, right? Okay, here it is. It all began a month ago. The postman rings. I don't know where he thinks it's a letter bomb for some reason. Talks about his alien abduction. An optical storage disc he got in the mail, yeah. That's from the desk of Max Smithson, editor-in-chief, Mega Surprise Magazine. Right, where's the part where he checks the disc content, though? Starving college student. The file name that opened up when he put in the optical disc was In the Darkness of Shadow Moses, which is Nastasha's account of everything that happened. And then got turned into a book and published after this. He started to gnaw on the keyboard. By Nastasha Romanenko, there it is. He knocks him out. He knocks out the student. Yeah, it's everything. So yeah, that confirms it. It's the optical disc that she got away with Richard was mailed to this guy, of all people, for some reason, under the guise of his own editor for his own magazine, but it was actually her or someone she knew. That was her way of trying to expose things without taking unnecessary risks, I guess. So now we've pieced it all together. Yeah, so now we've pretty much finished piecing together everything that's happened between Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2. What did this article thing talk about? Oh, this was a review of Nastasha Romanenko's book, which was published shortly, right there. Denver Cricket Publishing apparently published it after this guy's little magazine thing or whatever. And then the New York Mirror, yeah, reviewed it. Right, they just talk about how it's really good and it promises to have people debating constantly whether it's real or not, whether it actually happened, yada yada. It's become another conspiracy theory amongst many, basically. Ocelot and Gralukovic. Alright, yeah, we're good. That's pretty much the whole prologue then. I actually have about an hour of spare time still, actually. Fuck it. We finished faster than I thought we would, so might as well start the story then. But I want to separate this video from the actual beginning of the game. So, like the actual, the gameplay portion. The hitting new game. So I'm going to call this Prologue Part 4 like it is now. I'm going to make a little break, and then when I edit the VOD, the VOD, I will separate, when I make highlights, basically, I'll make two highlights. I'll make one for the prologue, this whole book thing, and then from this point, we'll start the actual, part 1 of the gameplay. So I'll do that. I'll make the cutoff right... Well, I was going to show the intro again when part 1 started, so we'll just make it here. If I stay here on the title screen enough, it'll start there, so that'll be where this video ends, and the next one begins, basically. So let me go ahead and shut off my webcam, make it a clean intro, and shut my mic and go get some water, because I need it now. BRB, y'all. And thank you all for watching, for those who stuck for the intro, for the prologue.